So one of the genres of the early 80s arcade games was the beat 'em up, where players moved characters left to right, basically punching things. Usually generic street thugs. Uh, it gave us a couple games like Double Dragon, Bad Dudes, that sort of thing. Namco, however, decided to put a unique twist on this and introduced a beat 'em up game with a horror element. And that you're not beating up thugs, you're beating up dead people. Yeah, you're basically bashing their brains in with things. Unsurprisingly, because of the gore and other factors associated with a game like that, it was kind of controversial. In fact, the arcade game was banned in many places. The first one. The home release, likewise, they got censored and certain things got cut and changed out. The story for the original Splatterhouse basically is you have two college students, Rick and Jen, and they're headed to the mansion of Dr. West, who in the original Japanese version of the game is stated to be outright dead in the game manual. That wasn't translated, it appears in the U.S. version. Anyways, they're there investigating him, looking up, I think, his work, and there's a big storm. They go inside, and in classic horror movie fashion, the lights go out, and when it comes on again, Jen is gone, having screamed during the darkness, and Rick has a big, ugly mask attached to his head that promises that has revived him, and tells him he will help him save Jen. And along the way to saving Jen, Rick has to kill a lot of things that are already previously dead. And now aren't. And, it's a standard beat 'em up type game. There's one-hit enemies. There's the kind of like little dog things that are replaced with pulsating organs. There's the boss that charges at you, except in this game he's got a bag over his head and he has chainsaws for hands. Fun for the whole family, really. Splatterhouse became so popular that it got two sequels, named Splatterhouse 2 and Splatterhouse 3. Natch. Unfortunately, after that, the franchise kind of petered out and died. So, a couple of years ago, Namco announced that they were remaking Splatterhouse and bringing out a new version of the game, which they did in 2010 with the popular title Splatterhouse. And here you see it right here for the Xbox 360. This is the terror mask, which is the thing that's affixed to Rick's face. And they reimagined the story, and if you were fortunate enough to order the game from GameStop, well, you got a little gift. I'm just going to turn this back so you can see this. As you can see, this is not really a family-friendly game. Not at all. But the thing you got was a box. Actually, what you got was more inside in the box. And right here, of course, you can see the Splatterhouse logo of the terror mask again. And what was in the box? Well, this is what's in the box. The terror mask. And it's the primary character, I guess, really, of the game and the franchise. And as you can see right down there, even has Splatterhouse written on the stand. And it's a very solid looking object. Very solid. Kind of a bit heavier than I thought it would be. So what exactly is new in this new Splatterhouse? Well, you still have Rick and Jen, but they've been reimagined too. Rick's kind of, the thin loner, almost an AV type kid that listens to a lot of heavy metal and death metal and all that sort of stuff. He's not really changed that much, except in his outward appearance. But we'll get to that. Jen has been completely changed from generic high school student to a metal loving girl that is very sexually promiscuous and takes lots of revealing photos, or has Rick take revealing photos of her. In fact, one of the things you can do in the game is reassemble photos of Jen in her various outfits and lack of clothing. Again, not a game for kids. But I'm sure you probably knew that by that big M that's down. Where's that big M at? Right there. Okay. But probably the biggest reimagining is, of course, the mask. Now, the mask in the original games talked to Rick but being it was the 80s, it was, text talk. In this game, it talks verbally. Even at the title screen, you're messing with the options, and it talks to you, it taunts you. And the opening of the game is actually kind of similar to the first game in that Rick awakens in a pool, a possibly large pool, of what appears to be his own blood. Didn't know the human body had that much. And the mask calls to him and says, if you give him a little faith, give him your soul, he'll help you save Jen. This sounds like a really good idea. Naturally, Rick puts the mask on and hulks out. In fact, there's kind of the really good shot right there of him. Some people were upset about that, but that's another topic. And it's a good thing he hulks out, because immediately after that, the first real enemies of the game, dubbed ghouls, I believe, within the context of the game, appear, and they're little monstrous, little beastie things, and combat begins. Now, the successor, modern day successor to the beat 'em up, is something like a combat engine like God of War, or Devil May Cry, or Bayonetta, where you can do ridiculous combos and things like that. Splatterhouse is one of those type games, so if you play those types of games, you'll probably be pretty good at this game. However, unlike the cool factor that's associated with Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, Splatterhouse is more of the gory, brutal side of the game. With the mask providing commentary, of course, every time you hit somebody, you get a nice sounding, I guess, a meat slapping sound, I guess. Like when someone's punching a side of beef, or punching an organ. And damaging the enemy enough will enable what's called a splatter kill. Now, if you've played Bayonetta, you've probably seen those games where you can execute somebody who's been damaged far enough. If you played the original God of War, you can do this too, where you plunge the daggers and the swords into, a minotaur's mouth or whatnot. Splatterhouse takes the idea a little further, where you can rip someone's arms off and then beat them with it. You can also rip someone's upper jaw and lower jaw off and then rip their lungs out. You can also rip their head off. All while the mask likes to talk to you. Doing so, of course, grants you currency in the game, which are called blood points. And naturally, like other games of this type, you can use that currency to buy newer, more violent and gory moves. You're also get a smattering of weapons, some of which are familiar to people who played the original game, the 2x4, shotgun, so on. Probably the most important thing about this game is the acting. And it comes out with Rick, Jen, the mask, and Dr. Henry West, who is now actually a really important part of the game. In fact, his story is so important it's tied to Rick's and Jen's, even though that's kind of an oxymoron. Bit of interesting thing is the mask is voiced by, I believe, Jim Cumming, the voice of Darkwing Duck. So for those of you who, like me, who grew up and watched that the kids cartoon, and you heard, the Let's Get Dangerous, to hear that voice coming out of the mask imploring you to rip someone in half, fuck him up, tear that guy, come here asshole, I've got a use for you, that sort of thing, it can be a little disconcerting. By the way, did I mention there's going to be profanity in this video? Something else that's kind of disconcerting is the voice for Rick is, I think Josh Keaton is his name. He's the voice of the main character in the ongoing Transformers Prime series on the Hub. So there's your Transformers connection. Fred Tacitor, who played a lot of characters in Transformers War for Cybertron, also appears in the game as playing most of the monsters. Really, that's about all I can say in 10 minutes or so. As far as recommendations, again, not a family-friendly game. If you play something like God of War, this game, if you're a diehard Splatterhouse fan, you'll like this game. You probably already own it. Other people, you may just want to rent it to see if you really can like it or not. As far as the mask itself goes, it's pretty cool. If you can track one down for cheap, I would consider buying it. But until next time, talk to you later.